Hey guys, thank you for clicking on the video. And if it's your first time here, my name is Daniel, and this is my channel, Keto Sasquatch, where I talk about keto weight loss for the everyday person. And we've got a special episode today, an interview with my coach, Ben Phelps, aka Primal Bro. And in this video, we're going to be talking about a number of things, including how he got into keto and coaching, also my 8 weeks keto weight loss results, and then why somebody might want to hire a coach. So I hope you find some value out of this video today. If you would, just take a second, hit that like button. If you already haven't subscribed, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can get notifications when I upload videos every Monday and Thursday. Appreciate it, and we'll get into it right after this. Awesome. Well, guys, we're here with Ben Phelps, aka Primal Bro. Reached out to Ben actually several months ago. We actually did a month of coaching back then, and then I didn't like fall off the wagon or anything like that. It was just like not great timing. Anyways, came back 8 weeks ago to work with him. But before we get into that and that part of the story, Ben, I'm really curious to hear. I've heard little bits and pieces, but how did you get into the world of keto, and what kind of results have you seen doing keto?
Okay. So first, thank you for asking me to do this. I think this is really cool, and you put out really good videos on your YouTube channel. I would say I started out trying to play with the YouTube thing a little bit, and while I'm open to re-exploring it, I'm coming up with some ideas. I was never that good, and I mean, video quality. You've always kind of, and if it's not obvious from the way that this looks, I would assume that you've always just been leaps and bounds above. But I've been overweight my whole life. I mean, that's really cliche to say, but it's true, right? I was the fat kid. I shopped in the Husky section. I was the
What a
big
horrible
guy.
name for clothing. Sorry to
Husky.
interject, but I had Husky too. I thought I was the only one that shopped in that section, but
No.
the worst thing, you talk about PTSD. I'm sorry, you
Yeah,
just
it's
triggered that
big
in
and
me.
tall. It's big and tall for kids or like for little boys. That was more or was, right? Because I guess it's gone. I haven't seen it shopping for my children. But yeah, I was just always the big kid. I was the big guy, and that just continued on until I was about 24 years old. I had a handful of things kind of happen all at the same time. I had a less than favorable doctor's appointment, which a lot of people can relate to who've started a weight loss journey. I was a father, but like the responsibility or that, like what that meant to me as that kind of grew and became more special and meaningful, like wanting to be capable and able to do things like that became a big part of it. So like all this stuff kind of comes to like a breaking point for me, right? And I just had to do something. And initially, the heaviest I ever got was 333 pounds. And initially, I had a really hard time trying to figure out what I was going to do because I was I was pretty lazy, but like I was so turned off and disengaged by like if it fits your macros type thing. Like you can have a cookie a day, right? As long as you eat all these other things. And it's just because of my relationship with food, which is another cliche. I'm sure you'll hear me say 50 cliches throughout this conversation. Uh, but like I'm never going to be able to moderate my intake, like have a cookie or a serving of Oreos or whatever. Like I'm a sleeve or a package kind of guy, like a box of cereal kind of guy. Like that didn't work for me. And then I started off initially with the paleo diet, which is eating essentially the way that you would think your ancestors would eat: no sugars, no grains, single ingredient whole foods. And I actually lost over 120 pounds with paleo. But I had a really rough point in my life, like a little bit of an existential crisis after I had lost the weight. And the big lesson that I want to just to push without going into a lot of detail is like losing weight won't make you happy. Cause like a lot of people, they associate the two, right? And it's because like heavy people, and it's like a heavy, sad, depressed person. And that's kind of like what I had become or what I was. And then I lost the weight, but I was still a sad person. And I guess I thought once I lost weight, I would be happier. So like that paired with some other things, long story short, I gained back 80 pounds in a few months. So I was back up close to the 300-pound mark. And then when I was kind of ready to recommit or take things serious again, all of the subreddits and Instagram pages, and everything that I had started following when I was paleo was now talking about the keto diet, keto, keto, keto. And it was a logical offshoot, because the reason paleo worked so well is because I didn't count calories for a long time. Like it really simplified things. It was like whole food, single ingredient, eat these, avoid everything else. And I didn't track at all when I was doing paleo when I lost the weight initially. And then keto was like an extension of this. It made the same like evolutionary sense to me, if that, like, it kind of followed the same logic. And then honestly, that's kind of that I started keto and never looked back thing. And that was the same kind of deal. I didn't track initially, and then I got really into tracking. And now, based on my own experiences, I find that like maybe the if it fits your macros people kind of had a little bit of a point with some of those things, but I keto was the thing that worked. It was the most sustainable for me. Like I enjoyed the way that I ate. I never felt like restricted or like I was missing a lot of things. So like keto for me was the easiest time I ever had losing weight, maintaining weight loss. Right, it was just a very sustainable, enjoyable way for me to eat. So that's like the quick-ish version of how I got to keto and what it did for keto. Once I gained back to 80 pounds on keto, I lost 111, and I got down to 178, which is the latest I've ever been. That was kind of scrawny, so I have put on some weight now, which is kind of that process of gaining weight has opened my eyes to the calorie discussion, tracking discussion a little more. So like, yeah, it's been quite a ride, but that is, I think, enough to answer that question.
So cool. I reached out to you a few months ago for the first time, I believe it was, looking for a coach, looking for accountability, and of course was really drawn to the things I was seeing on your Instagram, stuff I've seen over time, and watched some of your YouTube videos before. Just seemed like really approachable. And I was just curious if you can just spend a minute or two talking about how you got into coaching, what the experience has been like. And, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, at the end of the day, it started with my wife, because like I had a bigger need to, she's lost over 100 pounds herself, but I was the one that was more driven, or at least affected at the time, by my weight. So like I'd always start to lose weight, and then she'd follow me. She did it with paleo, she did it with keto. But the difference is I'm a person that when I get into something, I become like obsessive, and I go super deep, and like I got to know everything, every strategy, right? And I've found balance and like a little bit of relief from that almost obsessiveness, but that's how it started with keto for me, was like going hardcore. And she's very much a tell me what to do, because I don't want to put a lot of thought into this kind of person. So that's like I did all the like, here, eat, I made a meal, like here's the portion you should have. Like I helped her with her macros. Um, I she helped me more with the mental side of things then. But like I think that she really helped me with like the kind of advice and outlook that I try to have with my clients. But like I'm gonna end up rambling again. So my wife kind of got it started, and then like the true like what my coaching is now started because a buddy reached out to me on Facebook. We had worked together for a little while at a data center. And then we like went separate. We kind of left really close together. Like he stopped working there, and then a couple weeks later, I stopped working there. Um, and he reached out because he had seen my success. It was like, well, dude, what are you doing? I got to make a change. And I was like, yeah, I'll help you. Like, I'll help you do kind of what I did. Right. Like and he got probably a really rough version of like what you get now, which nothing that I do is overly professional or like executed really like professionally. Cause like you said, like I'm just a guy. I mean, at this point I've developed a little bit of a brand and somewhat of a business mind for this kind of thing, but like I really am just a person, and I really just want to help people. So I helped him like here, I'll help you with food selection, gave him here's like calories. I didn't necessarily have a good gauge on protein, the importance of that and stuff, but again, long story short, like I helped him, and I was like, wow, that like he had really good success. His name was Scott, and he was actually one of the first, and I still sometimes will share his transformation picture, just like as a testimonial thing. But he was the first time, because we didn't live close together, so we did this like remotely, right? So we'd call each other on the phone and we'd message, and I was like, wow, like that was selfishly, I felt really good, like helping someone. Like philosophically, I feel super fulfilled in my life. And I kind of, even if not everyone's meant to be a coach or anything like that, but like if they can find whatever that thing is by escaping this, or if like finding freedom from like feeling depressed and being overweight and all of those things that kind of chain together. Um, so it just developed into me saying like, here, I helped one person, maybe I can help you. And then that slowly grew into, I've helped a couple of people. Now I can help you. And now I'm at the point where I can't say, I can say I've worked with dozens of people. I tried to think of like the biggest way I could say it to make it sound the biggest with it. Cause it's like, I don't know. I am not at 100 total people worked with, but I've helped dozens of people, and I've even worked with people in other countries, like 5 countries,
Wow.
Australia, Germany, and then like Canada. That kind of counts. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just,
It's another
but
country.
it's another country. So technically it counts. But yeah, so like it grew because I wanted it to, but I just found a lot of engagement and like fulfillment in helping people through that journey for whatever their end destination is. Doesn't have to be the same as mine. Now I've opened up the dietary thing, so like I won't only do keto with people if they want coaching, but I'll recommend it for most people who want weight loss. So yeah, it's something that I found a little bit by accident. I developed a knack for helping people and looking at other people with my wife. I really kind of flushed out the bugs with my buddy, and then just got clients slowly over time, and here we are.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's enough about you. We're done.
Oh, all right.
We're
I'm
done.
just close
It's
this.
just,
Yeah.
yeah, no. So 16 weeks. That's what we're in the middle of right now. 8 weeks ago, I reached out to you with some pretty big goals. I said, I want to take a family vacation in 16 weeks. I want to lose as much weight as possible, more or less 100 pounds ish, really big goals. When you hear someone, whether it's me or somebody else, but when you heard that, we kind of had that conversation and I told you what I was looking at, what were your initial thoughts? Like, what did you think about um, the goals that I had and wanting to achieve them with your help?
So on a surface level, they're aggressive, right? Like we had aggressive goals. So like normally, if somebody comes and it's like weight loss, like if you have 100 or more pounds to lose, it would be a little more slow and methodical, and a little bit deeper than surface level. Like just because the first time that we worked together, it went well, but then we just kind of fell off, right? Like
Yeah.
it was kind of like it left me like wondering like, oh, I hope, like you didn't go completely off like you said at the beginning. So I was happy when you told me that, like you didn't blow everything, right? But so there was a little bit of hesitation because it was like, well, we started out before, but like we'll try it. um I've treated this, like I said, more aggressively than I probably would standard weight loss. You do have the benefit of still being able to eat a good amount calorically, like a good amount of food, just based on your start point. So, and you set an aggressive goal, but not an unrealistic necessarily goal. So like I was excited but nervous, and I knew that like we'd get you even if you didn't lose the exact amount of weight that you wanted. Like by the difference we could make in 16 weeks, I think you'll be ecstatic, right? Like you'd be thrilled. And I just needed dedication or like commitment on your end. And I think this time is what would be the big difference. That was the single biggest difference this time is how dedicated and focused you are. And it goes just beyond like hitting macros and following the diet. But like when you do make mistakes now, or like whenever you have any kind of bad day, even whether it be mentally or dietarily, like you could just struggle mentally, maybe ate something, but you're very honest and aware, and you have a really good attitude about it. So you've done several things since we started that have made me more confident in where we'll end up. But I always was optimistic and at minimum that you would be much happier with where you were at the end of 16 weeks. But I would be lying if I said there was no doubt. I'm just for transparency.
Yeah, I mean, coming in, so point of reference, started 16 weeks, 8 weeks ago, I was 410 pounds. The highest weight I've been recorded at was 427 pounds. So very large person. I'm 6'3". So a lot of people are like, oh, you carry it well. Well, honestly, that that doesn't
Still
make it.
carrying it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I was like, I'm like, I know people are like trying to be nice, but yeah. So anyways, so 410 pounds to start at. You kind of gave me a target to start at, calorically and also macronutrient wise, protein, fat, carbohydrates. Like, what went into the decision of what those starting macros would look like? And particularly, I want to mention like the protein being where it is, because for a lot of people, they hear keto diet. Traditional keto diet is typically at least like 70-75% fat, or more, depending on what circles you run in. Whereas percentage wise, my fat is only probably 65%. So can you just walk us through kind of why you started me where I started and kind of what all goes into that?
Yeah. So at the end of the day, calories in terms of just weight loss is always going to be the most important thing, right? And then, but that's not like the end of it. Like a lot of people stop there and they get really fixated on just count your calories, right? But like there's a lot of nuance, and the macros, the way that they're made up is equally important, right? So we establish what your caloric needs are for like your size, your age, your activity level, and that type of thing. And then within that, I start to separate things out. And I'd like to do higher protein because and you'll hear disagreements on this, but I'm going to plug something if that's okay. But so I have my podcast, the Primal Broadcast, right? And I just talk to all sorts of people who've lost weight, talk to people who are in the like experts on keto and nutrition, talk to jujitsu athletes, MMA fighters, like whatever I want to, essentially. But I did an episode recently with Chris Irving. He's the ketologist on Instagram, and he is what I would consider a keto expert. And we talked a lot about this, but like protein. So go listen to that if you're like super concerned about protein. But protein is essential, right? There's a lot of things for your body that protein can't do. And then there's a lot of benefits to eating more protein. Protein is tremendously satiating. Like this is a little cliche, but if you sit down with a plate full of chicken breast, it's going to be hard to binge eat that. Whereas if you sit down with a tray of brownies, even if those are keto brownies, you're going to cram those into your face, right? Like, so whether it be fat or carbs, you can get a keto cheesecake. People do fatty coffees, but like they're just way over consuming because a lot of times they're not getting enough protein for the satiation. Protein will help with bone density, your muscle mass. It'll help make sure that when you do lose the weight, you're losing it in better areas. Another thing that you hear that isn't always popular, but it's keto is not the presence of fat; it is the absence of carbohydrates. So that's why we put an emphasis on keeping carbs as low as we do, and that's also why we did total carbs. And I'm a big proponent of total carbs because going back to that tray of brownies, you can play the net carb game with sugar, alcohols, and fiber and make it so that you can eat half a tray or full tray of brownies a day, but you still were within whatever 20 net carbs. But when we set 25 total carbs, and now you're not subtracting anything, you're every single carb you eat, whether it be broccoli or a Quest bar, is going to count, and you just have to stay within that number. So we put an emphasis on the ketosis element of it by doing total carbs. We do protein to help both with satiation because you're eating the protein, it's 4 calories per gram. Fat is 9 calories per gram. So when you're not eating a lot of carbs, to help you not overeat calorically, it's nice to leverage and eat a little more protein because it'll help you feel full with less of a bang like onto your calories.
Yeah.
So like that's kind of the general framework of how I would establish that. Like protein is very important, so we set that goal. It's important to keep carbs low, and then like you have a little bit of flexibility with your fat. It probably ends up anywhere between 60 to 70%, just depending on how the protein and carbs fall for that day.
Yeah, it's strange though. It's pretty consistent. Usually I'm about 65% fat, and kind of pointing reference to that protein. So I think pretty much from the beginning, the goal has been to hit 200 grams of protein a day. So 800 calories a day worth of protein. And I'm practically carnivore as it is, so that's definitely not a problem for me. And then my carbs definitely come in below that 25 gram. I'm one of those people that's not into like the keto sweets and treats, mainly for the fact that that's the kind of stuff that got me the way I am, got me to where I am. And I really don't need to go down that path. It's not necessary. So,
Yeah.
so 8 weeks in, we're in this last Sunday, had my weigh in, and for 8 weeks down 44.2 pounds. What just kind of walk me through what your reaction with that has been like, and just the progress through the weeks, what your thoughts have been, what you've seen, and your thoughts about my progress overall.
So I definitely initially thought that this whole thing was going to take more attention, or for me to be more on top. Like I thought it'd be like little adjustments every single week just to keep chipping away, right? Chipping away. And I gave you to start with what I felt like was already aggressive. And I guess I didn't necessarily realize how effective that would be, because we have made minimal two at this point. So the set point and then one
Yeah,
adjustment.
yeah,
So because typically for most of the time, if you lose more than 2 pounds for like a normal client weight loss, if you lose more than 2 pounds a week, we're just going to keep macros where they are, right? But if you start to get up 3-4 pounds a week, like there's no reason for you to reduce. So if you lose a pound and a half a pound, then maybe we'll make an adjustment. But we set yours and you just blew that. And I was honestly going to let you go up to like 3 pounds, maybe 3.5 pounds. But like every week was like 6, 6, 5, 4, 6. And it was like, I'm pleased and I'm thrilled. Right. And I do think that part of that's been your consistency. Part of it's been not being interested in those treats like we talked about, because I think that's actually a really good example of why you've been so successful, is your mindset has been on point, for lack of a better. It's like, in my opinion, it has been exactly what it needs to be. If you make a mistake, it's behind you, you move on. You say, I don't want to eat brownies because it was the behavior, not the sugar, right? Like brownies are designed to want to be eaten, right? Like doesn't matter if it's keto or not,
yeah,
you're gonna probably eat more than you should.
absolutely.
Especially people like you and me who have a harder time controlling that behavior. So the thing that's pleased me or impressed me more than the weight loss and like the body changes really has been just how sharp you've been. But I would say that this is about as good as I would have hoped for, but with less work. So it's even better, if that makes sense. Like this was about what I wanted to do, but I thought it was going to be hard for both of us. Right. And it's been quite the opposite. It seems to have been relatively easy for you based on feedback and just the numbers themselves. And then it's been tremendously easy in a coaching aspect for me, which I appreciate. But yeah, that's you have done about as good as I ever could have hoped for. So yeah, I mean, good for you, man. I really am. I'm super proud because
Yeah,
like I said, there was always that thing in the back of my mind. And I think it was like at the end of the second or third week, I was just like, this is different. You know what I mean? Like this
yeah.
time it's obvious that something is different. And I think when we had our first call and we talked about that trip, like having that thing in focus, I think that has made a world of difference for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, some people might say, "Oh, this is easy for you, you're losing so much weight," but it's still work. It's still
Yeah.
changing mindset, changing your discipline. There's been good days, there's been bad days, and I've tried to be really honest, both with myself and with you on those things, just because, um, like, I think not being honest with myself and with others is what's got me long term in the place that I am. And so obviously some things have to change. um and so it's been a lot mindset wise, understanding, I one of the things I do is I weigh myself every day. That's not necessarily something that everybody should do or would do. But for me, it's kind of tracking how and wanting to understand how everything that happens within the course of a day really impacts the overall health. and I've learned that through the course of the week, my weight will fluctuate a lot. In fact, the last 2 days, my weight has been up, and I'm not concerned about it. Like, I'm not worried about it. I haven't really slept great. One of the nights I was up till like over past 1 in the morning. My son has been home doing virtual school, so I've been trying to help him. So like my world has been a lot different. And usually what I find is by the end of my week, when Saturday comes around, it's my last day of work for the week. My anxiety, my cortisol, like everything starts to come down. And then like my Sunday, I'm just really relaxed. And so that's why I always chose Sunday as my weigh-in day. But it still has been work, and I've been like absolutely amazed. And kind of going back to the talk about like the macros and the fat percentages, I've always done personally like 75% fat or higher. So it was a challenge for me. I'm not going to lie, in the beginning, doing as much protein as I was, but at the same time, I've come to really enjoy it. And obviously, my body is responding, like
Yeah.
it's responding really well to that. So I think that's one of the things, like regardless of what you're doing, who you're working with, it's like finding the things that you're going to respond to and that you're going to stick with and that you're going to do well. And again, I'm under no illusion that it's gonna the results are gonna continue to be the same week after week. I mean, to have 2 weeks in a row where I've lost, well, let's see, last week it was, I think, like,
Last week was like 4.5 ish.
yeah, I think it was a little higher. And the week before, it was a little over 6 pounds. And so,
Yeah.
like, over 10 pounds over the last 2 weeks. Like, I'm not coming into this week thinking, oh, I'm going to lose 5 pounds. Like, hey, I'm going to be happy if I lost something. I'm just going to try to be consistent, because the end goal is not just 16 weeks, or even if you just kind of mash it down to 1 week. My goal isn't just to get through 1 week. My goal is to get through the rest of my life, making better
Yeah.
choices, losing the weight, being able to be around for my family, and just take care of myself. There's a lot of things I want to do, but kind of headed down the path I was. Obviously, I wasn't going to make it. So
Yeah.
um, let's see. What else? What else should we talk about? Should we
Well,
talk? Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, no, we'll go to any topic, but I think, again, there's been several examples just in this video, and maybe the people that watch your YouTube channel aren't as familiar with you as I am, but like that, everything that you said there at the end was like, that is very, it's a good representation of the shift that you've made. And I'm sure that while there are styles of eating and there are coaches that work best, like that will click best for you, like at the end of the day, you really have to be changing. Like, it doesn't matter if you have a coach, right? If you're not ready, like you seem to be very ready, but if you're not ready to change, then like no one can do this for you. So I hope that, and I don't know necessarily if this video is geared to be more about me, more about you, or more about our relationship, but I do just want to put a big focus or highlight of this video that like you're doing a really tremendous job.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I really do. The focus of it's all of the above, to be honest. And it wasn't just about making content, but like the truth is, like, we like since we've started 8 weeks ago, we've talked on the phone like twice.
Mhm.
We text fairly regularly. You ask, one of the things that you ask is, as somebody who's a client, is to send, the macro charts, things like that, how I'm feeling, stuff like that. I've really kind of fallen off of doing that, but I like at this point, for the most part, I think the thing we found is that if I am falling off the wheel, that I'm gonna let you know,
Yeah.
because that happened the other week, and I didn't really fall off the wheel. Went over my calories by 150, went over my carbs by 35 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
So
And that's
uh,
another, that's people, like a lot of times we get stuck in like, it's like pass or fail,
yeah,
but it's like in terms of what you could have done, that really wasn't that big a deal. Obviously, it will take it more serious in the moment. I'll be like, well, like this isn't ideal for the goal, right? Like we said all the right things, but at the end of the day, when we look back on it, like you could have done much worse. So like it's really, again, an example of like you've fallen out of this all or nothing thing, and now you can kind
yeah.
of accept like a little bit of balance, or at least perspective, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing is, so I'll kind of go into this day a little bit deeper, because this happened last week while I was in Arkansas, and it was actually just a mix up on a food delivery that gave me somebody else's food, and I was hungry, and it was the end of the day. It was like 10 o'clock at night. I was tired. I just wanted to eat and go to bed, and wound up eating stuff I shouldn't have. But like the next day, it was like, I sent you a text. I was like, hey, just so you know, this is what's going on. And we were talking about mindset. Like you asked me, you're like, hey, so what are you doing today that's different? Like, what's the, and the thing I replied with on that was like, hey, it's yesterday.
Yeah.
Like it has no real impact on today. The choices I make today have the impact on today. And so I think that's the big difference, particularly for me this time around, is that the reason I don't want to use the word fail, but the reason I've fallen so many times trying to lose weight, and I think so many people do, is because when we do kind of mess up or fall or get off plan or whatever, we beat ourselves up so much that we just talk ourselves out of continuing. We just talk ourselves into quitting. And I was just at a point, and I think I spoke to this in my last video I did, but I was talking about it doesn't make sense to quit. Like one moment, one day, whatever, like it makes no sense to undo everything. And that's the thing you've got to understand. And that's why, again, like I try to understand what's going on day to day, because I've had where my weight has gone up 5 pounds day over day, and I didn't eat any different than what I have before. But I understand that, my electrolytes, my sleep, my stress, I understand that all those things impact it. So I can't let every little thing like make the decision for me whether I'm going to continue or whether I'm going to stop. So again, it's not that I have that expectation that every week I'm going to lose a ton of weight or anything. But again, so I got back on track the next day. And again, for last week, I lost over 4.5 pounds. I think it was 4.8 or something like that. But regardless, like I was like, "Ooh, this is awesome. This is great." I got back and just seeing some really great results. So again, it's finding that consistency. So that's the difference, I think, for me this go around.
Yeah. It shows. It
Yeah.
really does. Yeah.
So if somebody was, let's talk about why somebody might want to hire a coach. I think this concept might be foreign for a lot of people, but I think about this is the perspective I've had about it. Like, obviously, like even though I've learned a lot over the years, I got to where I am. I got to a point where I was over 400 pounds. Why? Because one, really didn't know much about food, nutrition, whatever, but also obviously couldn't keep myself accountable enough to stay consistent enough to to get the results I want. So, like, talk for just a second about why somebody might want to hire a coach, and the benefits of having a coach.
Yeah. So it's funny because I was talking to someone recently trying to like explain what I do. And they
Mhm.
came from that mindset or like the standpoint of like, well, you lost weight without a coach. People continuously, like everyone loses weight, like so many people, right? And I think for a lot of people, like I had a lot of support in my life. Like when I started losing weight, my wife jumped on board, so she was doing it with me. Like we didn't have a split household. My family, like my parents and my in-laws, like everyone was like, "This is awesome, good for you." It was really supportive, right? So I didn't necessarily have a tremendous amount of accountability, but I had a lot of support, and like I didn't want to let those people down. So that was kind of an accountability mechanism, right? At the end of the day, you have to do it for you, but it really, really helps to know that somebody else cares, or at least that somebody else is paying attention. Because I'm not going to lie, there's coaches out there that are, you get an email like once a week with like, I don't know, they're more limited in their availability. They never really talk. The communication isn't the same. It's more, let's just call it, it's like Walmart versus your local mom and pop, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And like everyone has something that works better for them, but I always prefer to make this connection with people because I guess my demographic, so to speak, like I want to help the person that I was. Like people have a lot of weight to lose, particularly men. I don't necessarily want to sound sexist, and I do work with women, but like helping other men really like take their life back, right? Because I try to push everyone to do jujitsu, and I think there's certain diets that people should try, but at the end of the day, I just want you to do better, eat better, move better, perform better, live better, right? And I think, but like going back to the root of your question, it's tremendously helpful to know there's someone watching, someone that cares, someone that's invested in it. And that to me is probably the single biggest benefit of hiring a coach. You can figure out, you can go online, get a general idea of how many calories you should be eating. You can watch YouTube videos, get a general idea of your macros. Somebody might watch this video that we've made and create or craft their own macros from our macro conversation.
Yeah.
So like there's ways you can figure it out on your own. And that's probably 20% of the benefit, I would say, of having a coach is the like technical aspect. And then the other 80% is just having someone to brag to, having someone to complain to vent to, having someone to ask questions, bounce ideas, having someone that will check in on you so that if you have a couple days where like in our case, like a lot of times one of us, I like it when it's you, but sometimes it's me. But like if there's a day or two where we haven't texted or talked, communicated at all, I'll typically send a message. And it's just like, how's it going? Good day, like question mark. But at the end of the day, it's just like, hey, it's been a while, right? Like I could just start saying that because that's really the gist. Like I want to stay in contact. I want you to know that I'm in this with you from start to finish. So if you're looking at hiring a coach, I can work with you. I can get you the numbers, but I'll also try my very best to like be there for you for lack of a better way to say it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. And then if somebody does want to, get to know you more, maybe reach out to you for coaching, kind of connect with you, what are some spaces that they can find you in? Where can they connect with you?
At this point, I feel like I've been doing it so long that I'm everywhere. The best place to find me or get in contact with me is Instagram. I'm at Primal Bro. I have a podcast. It's the Primal Broadcast, which also uploads to my YouTube channel. So you could find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find that on, like I said, YouTube, Spotify. It's everywhere. You can email me, primalbro@gmail.com if you want to maybe skip the Instagram message nonsense and go right into my inbox. And I have a website, primalbro.com. See everything. It's a common theme. Everything just has this. But yeah, it's primalbro.com, at primalbro on Instagram, Primal Broadcast podcast. Those are probably the three biggest. Primal Bro on YouTube. Those would be the easiest ways to get the most. If you're on Reddit, you can probably find me, but I don't know that I've been pretty dormant for a while on there. Yeah, I'm everywhere. Pinterest. I have Pinterest boards.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like
Hey.
I liked the name and it was available everywhere because it was back when I was doing paleo, and nobody had really like, I guess the spaces hadn't exploded yet. So like
Yeah.
I found this and I literally got it everywhere.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to talk to me. I'm looking up at the timer and seeing how long since I posted or started record, and it's been a minute. So I appreciate you hopping on and
Yeah.
spending some time with me.